Joining us now, Denver Riggleman. Denver will also be joining us at the Advance coming up tomorrow, right? I'm leaving this afternoon at the beautiful Homestead Resort, the Republican Party of Virginia Advance, and Friday night. That's tomorrow night. Guess what? If you're going to the Advance, there's the late night whistleblowers hospitality suite. Denver Riggleman, Pete Snyder, and John Fredericks. And guess who's going to be there? Denver Riggleman. Congressman, great to have you.
Good morning. How you doing, John?
I'm excited about our whistleblower suite tomorrow night. The late night suite.
I am too.
With Denver, Pete, and John. What do you think?
I'm looking forward to it. You know, we got the regular suite hours, and we have the whistleblower suite after that, and I'm looking forward to it. It's I think my second or third Advance, so I'm starting to become a veteran, a very tiny veteran, but a veteran nonetheless.
All right, so you're going to be there. Obviously, the Republican Party of Virginia, all kinds of issues. We're going to have to deal with that when we're there. I'll be there this afternoon, and I will see you tomorrow, obviously, and we'll be at our suite. But Congressman Denver Riggleman with us, Republican, 5th District, Virginia. Denver, let's get to the clown show that Jerry Nadler's committee, the Judiciary Committee, rolled out yesterday. For the life of me, I kept trying to tune it in and figure out what this had to do with impeachment or crimes or anything else.
That was just sort of a partisan, you said clown show, but really it was just a partisan hack job. I was doing real work in the Financial Services Committee. So it was pretty hard. You know, we had financial services as the prudential regulators, so we were talking about free markets against really socialism. I mean, that's really what the financial services hearings have come down to. But I ran back and forth. I saw Jerry Nadler's opening statement, and then I had to go back afterwards because, you know, they put out the clips so we can watch them because we're working all day. But to watch Gerhardt, Feldman, and Carlin, to watch their opening statements and the way they answered questions, and the fact that they were obviously huge supporters of the left, right, and against the president, and that includes campaign donations and time, it really, I think, was an awful day. It reminded me of the Mueller day, John, when Mueller testified when they thought it was going to be huge. This was a bad day for them. Yesterday was a really bad day for Democrats. And remember when I told you I thought we would have an impeachment vote before Christmas? Yesterday might have changed that equation. I'm wondering if during the press conference with Pelosi or what they're doing, I have a slight feeling we might be in for a surprise. It could be moved to after the holidays, which would be a shame, to be honest with you. I think, you know, if you guys want to do this, if you want to own it, it's time to own it. And I think it's just going to hurt them very badly one way or the other.
So why are they going to put this off until after the holidays?
Because they got to figure out if all those Democrats starting to come out for censure votes instead for impeachment, they better start whipping some votes. I think they're looking at the polling in the 31 swing districts that are Trump districts that have Democratic congressmen and congresswomen in them right now. I think they're looking at some of the far left, even saying, hey, hold on, maybe it should just be a censure and not an impeachment. I think you're starting to see that fracture in their caucus based on impeachment, because you remember Democrats do everything on polling. It's not about right or wrong. It's about polling. So if they're polling in those swing districts and they're seeing some things that are very touch and go, I think they're having some late night meetings right now on what their course of action should be.
So it sounds, Denver, that you're coming to the conjecture that the polling numbers are such a disaster for Pelosi and the Democrats that now they're actually grappling with what to do, where like 2 or 3 weeks ago, they were dead set. Remember, she said, we're going to have a vote. It's going to be right after Thanksgiving, and it's going to go to the Senate. We're going to go for there. Everybody thought she had the votes. I've had various Republican congressmen on my show. All of them said she had the votes. The only person, though, who said she didn't when I had him on was Vice President Mike Pence 2 weeks ago. He said right on the air, I don't think she has a majority. I think it's very tenuous. And he may have been prophetic in that. But, you know, when we look at this, we say, okay, just do the math. I mean, they can lose 10, 12, 13 Democrats and still pass it. So why wouldn't they just go forward with it and be done with it? Because
Nancy Pelosi doesn't want the look of first of all, some people don't show up, right? Tulsi Gabbard never votes. Pelosi never votes. So she would have to vote on this one. I don't think she wants to look at like a 219, 213 impeachment vote, right, John? I mean, now you're talking about Democrats starting to flow over. You don't really have – now you have a bipartisan group that's against impeachment, if that makes sense. And that's a really bad look because that just simply means it was partisan all the way, and they couldn't even hold their Democratic friends in line. Now you have 12 to 15 Democrats that float over and say, hey, we're not voting for articles. Or they try to break down the articles where you're voting for one article, then another article, and then they try to break up the impeachment articles to make it a very fragmented look, if that make you know what I'm saying there.
Yes.
So now you're voting on each article of impeachment. Now you have maybe 15 that don't vote for one article and maybe 8 that doesn't vote for another article, and all of a sudden you have this absolute mess. Because, they started off with it's now bribery and obstruction. Remember when I said I thought this would turn to obstruction?
Right.
And you heard that, right?
Right.
And this is what's happening. You don't hear quid pro quo anymore. They needed some more powerful words, right?
Right.
So bribery and obstruction, you might have somebody that votes no on bribery and yes on obstruction. Hold on a second. You do that. If there was no bribery, what's he obstructing again? We're all the way back to Mueller, and I think yesterday was so harmful for the Dems. I absolutely believe they just got cut down yesterday because, again, Nadler is out of his depth. That's why they had to have Schiff behind closed doors. By the way, there were private votes in the SCIF yesterday. I don't know if you know this about whether to bring it to the floor for a vote. They wouldn't even bring those votes into public. Schiff, again, had private votes yesterday in secret. Really, the conference, the Republican conference, was not happy about it. They're in trouble. I'm telling you. And even if impeachment is voted on, and it's a slim margin, it's going to be really interesting because I think the Senate's going to tear this case apart.
Well, look, the president has said if impeachment goes forward in the House, he's for a full and developed trial in the Senate where Republicans are in charge, where anybody can be called to a witness, and he wants to be fully exonerated. And yesterday, Joe Biden on the struggle bus tour in Iowa, I think it was in Iowa City, where he said he was not going to testify no matter what the Senate Republicans did. So he's already being defiant on that as he goes through a bus tour in Iowa. It kind of reminds me of the movie Weekend at Bernie's. But that having said that, I think everybody is looking at this now and saying, okay, if there's a narrow impeachment and there's no Republicans that are going to vote for it, I don't think they're going to get any Republican here, and 10, 12, 15 Dems vote against it. But you bring up an interesting point. If it's several articles, like let's take Abigail Spanberger, right? Spanberger votes no on bribery, yes on obstruction. Well, the problem with that is just what you said. How is that even possible? If there's no bribery, what's the obstruction, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. And by the way, so Joe Biden's allowed to be defiant about congressional subpoenas, but the president isn't. Think about that hypocrisy. Mm-hmm. Number one. Number two, Joe Biden's so nervous he's biting other people's fingers right now. I mean, this is what's happening right now. So
right.
I think you have a real issue with the Dems. If you're going to run your life with polling and not on what's right and wrong,
right.
If every decision you make is political and it's not best by the Constitution, you can get caught in that. And as you know, I am not a victim of that. I do what's right or wrong, facts, based on my belief system and what I got to do for my constituents. Sometimes it's difficult and hard to vote the right way, the way you think for your constituents, even with political pressure. I think the Dems have a tough time with that. It takes courage to do the right thing, and I think the Democrats need to start exhibiting courage, especially those that know that this has become sort of just a bizarre partisan. I don't even know. It's a partisan majority hearing that resulted in an impeachment vote, which is exactly what the founders of this country feared, was impeachment being used for political purpose and hackery.
I want you to give your honest assessment of what was Chairman Nadler's objective yesterday with bringing in these college professors. What was his objective? And in your view, Congressman Denver Riggleman, what did he accomplish?
He wanted to remember, they live in an echo chamber. So he thought that in a very narrow echo chamber of just screaming into popcorn boxes and listening to your own echo. So I think what he thought was, well, if we bring in professors, we have this rational discussion this honest discussion on the constitutional merits of impeachment. So he brings in three people. They go out and they search for three people who really want to be famous. That's really why they did it. That's why they've been so vocal about anti-president bias this whole time. So he brings them in thinking they're going to be practiced and they're going to be specific. They're going to be able to be soberly minded on the crisis of impeachment in this country. And what he got was three screaming far-left liberals, right? Nobody that's very balanced. And then, my goodness, Turley's intellect and balance just completely offset all three of those. And I don't think Nadler's not incredibly talented. I just don't think he expected it. And you can be out of your depth in judiciary. And here's the other thing. You're fighting against Doug Collins.
Right.
Right? And you don't think Doug Collins and that whole Judiciary Committee didn't prep for this with their 10 incredible staff attorneys? These guys were prepared. Mm-hmm. And you saw the way that they did the questions. Even Guy Reschenthaler starting with his motion, the way they attacked him with donations, the way they attacked him on process, the way they attacked him on everything constitutional. That is why Pelosi was terrified of Nadler taking this over and why they had this private sham behind closed doors with Schiff initially. They had to get their story straight. I believe Nadler thought this would help with a sober-minded process, remind the American people that the Constitution is primal, right? It's the primacy of the Constitution over everything else. And by the way, it backfired just like Mueller because these guys are partisans. They're just really not balanced individuals. And I think that's what you saw yesterday was, again, Nadler just is not a very good decision maker.
You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network, Trucking the Truth Across America. We're with Republican Congressman Denver Riggleman, 5th District, Virginia. That's the south side area of Virginia down past Danville, Charlottesville. Denver, we're going to be with each other the next couple of days at the Republican Party of Advance. Tell us, though, about the secret vote that Adam Schiff had in the SCIF.
Yeah, I think that was actually them bringing it to the floor. Because remember, the committee has to report it to the floor. So they, as far as we know, and this is all I know, I believe, and none of us were 100%, we're just sort of looking around at each other.
Right.
We believe that was the vote, whether to bring it to the floor. And we haven't heard yet. So isn't that interesting? We know there was some kind of, and the Republicans came in, they're like, yeah, this vote was pretty bizarre. So my guess is that that's why you're going to see that. Again, I'm putting two and two together, but I think that that's why Pelosi is having a press conference.
So what you're saying is they had a secret vote. The Democratic caucus, was it just Adam Schiff's committee or the entire
caucus?
Just the
committee, bud. Just the committee.
Just Adam Schiff's committee.
Yeah.
Oh my God! So just his.
Yes, that's what. Yeah. Yes, that's why you're saying. That's why it's shocking, right? It just doesn't end.
So they're concerned they're losing votes on their own committee, on their own intel committee.
Yes.
And that's not been reported by anybody.
No, it's not been reported by anybody. But again, that's conjecture on my part based on the fact they had another private vote. So I don't have proof of that. But it is interesting that they're doing this all in private again when we've already reported to judiciary. It's already in the open in the public. So why a private vote? And that was the head scratcher. And we were, in the whip meeting while it was happening. So it's just an interesting thing. The American people shouldn't be subject to secret items and secret negotiations. Again, the sunlight is the greatest disinfectant. You want to pull all the vampires into the sunlight. You want people to say what they mean what they say, and be truthful and be honest. And again, I think Turley was dead on. Even if people think this is inappropriate, even if it shouldn't have been done that way, is it impeachable? And no, it's not. And I think at this point, the American public is realizing that.
Let me ask you something. Are they hitting the panic button, the Democrats, on this?
Yes. Yeah, I think they're in it's like, the movie Spaceballs, right?
Yes.
And so
yes.
I think they're starting to hit ludicrous speed on the panic button. So I think something's happening there. And I think people should just pay attention to what the messaging happens. They'll put somebody out messaging that's in a safe district. Like a couple of weeks ago, I don't know if you saw on my Twitter, where I talked about one of the legislators came out from the far left and said maybe we should be looking at censure. She's in a safe district. So if you look at safe district individuals, you won't see anybody in the 31 swing districts. Watch what their messaging is over the next week or two. And look at these safe district D plus 20, D plus 30 districts and what they're saying. And you might see some safe district messaging, some probing and messaging to see if they can get away with the censure or what they're going to do about impeachment. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. And by the way, they could still do an impeachment vote and win 219, 213, or 223, 210. You know, they could still do it because they've gone so far down this road. But now they got to worry about a Republican majority running a trial. Oh, that scares them. It scares them. So we'll see what happens.
Right. So on one issue, they've got Democrat defectors, right? No Republican defectors in the House. Second issue they have is if they have two tight articles of impeachment, you're going to get some Dems are going to vote for one, not the other. So that becomes messy, right? Then their bigger problem is they pass it with the defectors, so it becomes totally partisan, and the only nonpartisan goes Trump's way, right, with Democrats voting no, and there's going to be at least 10 of them, we believe, that are going to vote no matter what the impeachment is, they're going to vote no. I think we're estimating 8 to 10 was our just conjecture. So then that passes, like you said, 219 to 213. Gabbert's not there. Then you go to the trial in the Senate where John Roberts is there, and they can subpoena anybody they want, bring in any witness they want. And the Republicans in the Senate have already said, we've talked to the president, this is going to be a full, open, and transparent trial that's going to go on for weeks.
Yeah, that scares them. Full, open, and transparent scares the Democrats.
That's their problem now.
That's the problem.
So I think the other thing I heard you say is for the Democrats in Dem plus 20 safe districts that are floating censorship via impeachment, they're doing that to get a polling gauge in those districts. Can the base accept that, right? So that's what they're doing there.
That's what they're doing. That's why you're seeing the censure comments coming out, and maybe we should throttle back. Have you seen that one?
Yes, yes.
You know what? Yeah, so the censure and the maybe we should throttle back, you're starting to see some of this. And that's people in safe districts. If you look at the individuals doing that messaging, that's safe district polling to see if they can get away with it with the base. That's my analysis.
All right, so basically here at Denver Riggleman, in 20 minutes, you've laid the whole thing out for us, given us all the insight, your conjecture. It's all about polling. Everything they do is choreographed, messaged, and now they're testing if they can get away with censure and just get the hell out of this thing. That's kind of where we are now.
They want the hell out of this. By the way, we still have USMCA, surprise billing, prescription drug bills. They're putting some crappy bills on the floor that are partisan. They're pilled. They're starting to try to change their messaging away from impeachment. I mean, it's happening, guys. It is happening, John.
Right.
It's happening.
Right. All right, Denver Riggleman, we will see you tonight or tomorrow night or both nights at the Republican Party of Advance at the Homestead in Southwest Virginia. Denver Riggleman, thanks for being with us.